Welcome to The Real Deal, where it's all about businesses in central Massachusetts and northeastern Connecticut. And now, your host, Anthony Chabot of Chabot and Associates.
Hey everybody, it's Tony Chabot with Chabot and Associates Real Estate Group of EXP, and on today's show, I have a very special guest. Been looking forward to this one for a long time. I've known Karen Osbrey for quite a while, and I'm very happy to have her on the podcast. Welcome, Karen.
Well, thank you very much. Welcome to WINY Radio. Glad to have you here.
So I had the pleasure of interviewing Gary, her husband, and about 6 months ago, or maybe it was even a year ago, actually, now I think about it, one of my favorite interviews I've ever done on the podcast. This is the Real Deal Business Podcast. I have the other one, which is the Real Deal Real Estate Podcast, but Karen is not a real estate person, but is definitely a business person. So happy to have her on the show, and then let's get right into, we have a list of things to talk about, but the first one I want to talk about is WINY, and when you met Gary. Can you tell us, you've lived in Northeast Connecticut your whole life?
I was born and raised in Northeastern Connecticut. Lived all my life, my young child and adulthood in Killingly. Went through the Killingly school systems. Oh, yeah. And went off to college. Was supposed to be a nurse. Didn't like it. And came home. And my parents, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so my parents basically told me, you either, pick a new major or find a job, and you got 2 weeks to do that. So I ended up with a job here at WINY. It was June of 1980, and I started here as the traffic director, and the front office manager. And then Gary came here in October of 1981. And it was not love at first sight. Let me just say that. We did not see eye to eye. He thought that I was stuck up, and I thought the O stood for obnoxious. But, then we kind of said, look, we have to work together, so we should be friends, and we got to be friends, and then, one thing led to another, and we were married in 1987, and then we bought the business here in 2001 on our 14th wedding anniversary. We bought this station.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember the news when it came out. And I've listened to WINY my whole life.
Well, you're a lot younger than I am, I think. So
I'm 47.
Oh, okay. You're younger than me.
Yeah.
I listened to it all my life, too. As a kid, my mother and father had it on all the time. Mm-hmm. So it was always part of my life. Always has been.
It's been a great influence on me, too. When I was growing up, I remembered, I would just be, like I was telling Gary, I would be sitting at the dinner table or at the breakfast, making breakfast, whatever it was, and they would have the contest in the morning where you would call in, and my mom would always call in. And then she got me into calling in, and next thing you know, we're always calling in, trying to win stuff and guess the trivia question and all that stuff. So it was pretty fun. And then as I got to know you and Gary later on in life, I realized what a big part of the community that you both were, and how much that you do to promote and improve northeastern Connecticut. So I wanted to get into some of the things that you've done in local business organizations in the area next, which and I'm sorry I don't have a heck of a lot of time. I would love to just talk about everything for a long time, but you have to go somewhere. I have to go somewhere after
and
this,
I've been doing this for a long time, so we don't have time to talk about the last 40 years. I was brought up that if you want to live in a nice place, and that means whether it's your house or your community, you need to roll up your sleeves and you need to get the job done. Don't wait for somebody else to do it for you.
Yes.
So that's how I was brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've kind of continued that into my adult life. I've been fortunate because working here at WINY and then also as the owner, it's allowed me the opportunity to kind of have a finger on the pulse of what's happening in the community.
Exactly.
And not just Putnam, all of northeastern Connecticut. And so it's kind of allowed me to have that inside track and to kind of know what's going on. And then I can kind of say, oh, gee, I'd like to help with that, or I'd like to be a part of that. And it's been super convenient, and it's been wonderful to be able to help on a multitude of projects. Some things that go on for years, and then some things that's just like, okay, that's just going to be for 6 months, and we're going to get the job done, and then we move on. But that's it's been something that I've really been grateful for, because not everybody has that opportunity. Some people, they might have a job where it's 8 hours and you don't leave your station for the entire day unless you go, for your lunch break or something. And so they don't have that flexibility. But I've always kind of had that flexibility. So that's really been one of the best things about working in this area. Plus I get to meet so many people on a daily basis, and that, life is all about connections and relationships, and, so you kind of file that, information away, and, maybe 3 years down the road you go, oh, that guy probably could help me with this project that I'm working on now. And I'll go back to the Rolodex and try to remember the person's name, and I finally will find it. One of the things I do that's a little weird is I have Rolodexes filed under the person's name, but because I forget the names a lot, I'll file it under a quirky thing, like, it'll say like band, and I'll have to go to the band file, and I'll go, oh yeah, that's the guy. He had that band that I said someday I'm going to want to use him.
Yeah, I do the same thing with email, and there's another app that I use called Google Keep. Same thing. I keep notes in there, and I'll just search through my email, or I'll search through the Google Keep app and find some clue that will guide you to who you're trying to
jog your memory. I know.
Totally agree. But you were the president of the Putnam Business Association, and can you talk about that a little bit? So how was your experience with that?
So I have been part of the Merchants Associations in Putnam for a long time. I was telling you earlier.
Yes. This is really interesting.
You're right.
Everybody should listen up.
A lot of people don't know this, the people newer to the area. But, it was like there was the Putnam Chamber of Commerce, and then they merged with the Killingly Chamber of Commerce and became Northeast Connecticut Chamber of Commerce. And so then they started what was called PAPA, which was Putnam Area Proprietors Association. And then they disbanded, and then we started the Putnam Business Association #1. And after that disbanded, I was like the secretary of that for, I think, the whole time, 8, 9 years. And then that disbanded, and they had the Putnam Merchants Association for a while.
Which is when I came into it, which I thought was a long time ago.
And one of the big things they did was the calves around town. People still see them around town, but that was a project of that group.
Putnam calves.
And then after the Putnam Merchants Association disbanded, they decided to create the PBA again, so PBA #2. And Ron Kader was our first president, and then Ron asked, or the nominating committee asked if I would step in to be the president for the second term.
I remember all that. I was here for that.
I was happy to do it. It was a little bit of a struggle at the time, because I was also at the same time, I was the president of the Quinnebog Valley Community College Foundation, QVCC Foundation, and the president of the PAC, which is the Putnam Arts Council. So I was working on 3 presidencies at the same time. So a little strapped that year, but you know what? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I'm not going to worry about it. But, I've had the opportunity to do so many wonderful things in this community. The Putnam Arts Council is one that I'm the president right now. You may have noticed some of the sculptures around town. That's some of the things.
Every time I walk Rotary Park,
I know. Aren't they gorgeous? They're just so fabulous. And so, that's kind of our mission, is public art.
So you're talking about the one with the cardinal on it with
the
hand,
there's 3, yes. Okay. So there's the first one was the big dog down at the dog park. And the second one is called, it's actually called 4 People. Mm-hmm. And that's the one that's along the river trail.
With the scarves.
Yes, people put the scarves on it. And then there's the one which is called Bird in Hand, and that's our latest one in Rotary Park. And those are all by the same sculptor. His name is Dale Rogers. He's from Massachusetts. Okay. Really nice person. As a matter of fact, he was here recently. He came through town. He had been delivering a sculpture, and he stopped to see where we had sited the Bird in Hand, and he absolutely adored the site that we chose. And he also noticed the scarves on the 4 People, and he just is ecstatic that his sculpture is interactive like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Because he asked me, he says, there's scarves on. I said, oh, they do it all the time. And he's like, I said, every winter they get new scarves. And he's like, oh my God, that is so fabulous. So he really loved that people embrace his art. And so right now we're going to finish some landscaping around the Bird in Hand. That has to be done, and that's this summer we will do that. Mm-hmm. And then we're already starting to think about where our next sculpture will be. It's kind of our goal that someday Putnam will be there will be a permanent sculpture, let's say sculpture walk in the town. So there'll be a reason for people to come to town because they'll be able to walk. That's why we've kind of worked with the river trail because that's already in place. And so it's going to be the type of thing we're going to have sculptures around town that people would be able to easily access by walking.
What a great river trail, by the way.
Absolutely fabulous. Love the river trail. Sat on that committee too many moons ago.
See, this I didn't realize it. The John Simonzi Park over there and the Rotary Park over here, the river trail over here. So that's one of my favorite things about Putnam, actually, and I think it's beautiful. You know, it's kind of funny. It reminds me. I love sharing these little stories. It reminds me when you go to Boston, and you know how the Charles River and is Cambridge on the other side of Boston, but then there's Storrow Drive, and then there's that river run where people are jogging and riding their bikes along there. This is like a little mini version of that. That's what I like to look at.
Exactly. And I love that too. I mean, I think that, you know, if you think about it, Rotary Park was, was mill houses. All right. So not super attractive. And when the flood came through the town, somebody had I won't get into all the history, but somebody had the foresight to say, let's create something public and a green space. Now that we're talking back in the in the 55 to 65 era, but someone had the foresight to do that, and it's not a wonderful thing that they didn't just put back what was there.
Thank God.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's beautiful.
I mean, I think of towns all the time that they would like give their right arm to have a river and green space running right through their downtown area. It's what like planners dream about.
Yeah, what we have here is really something special.
We are so fortunate to have that.
I've never seen another small town that has what we have.
And I give a lot of credit to, the powers that be and the municipal government, to have kept that connection and not, let's say, just like paved it over or something like that. And to expand it now with that river trail was, I am still amazed every time I'm working in the park, how many people use that river trail, not just on I was just there this past Saturday with a group of Rotarians, and we were landscaping and getting the park looking all really nice and helping out. We have a group called Rotary Gardeners in the park. And so we were doing a bunch of landscaping, and it was a gorgeous day. So, you expect to see a bunch of people using the river trail, walking, jogging, pushing strollers, walking dogs, all that stuff. But it's when I'm there and it's not the greatest weather, or it's even winter time, because they do plow it, and it still amazes me how many people use that river trail year round. I mean, what an asset to have.
That's great.
And as someone who lives here, it's no charge. I mean, obviously your tax dollars pay for those kind of things, but it's not like you have to, every time you go to the movies, you got to plunk down another, $15 out of the movies. It's really, I mean, a major asset for this town.
And here's what I tell people too. If you start at WINY and you jog down to the YMCA and back, it's a 5K exactly.
Really?
Yeah, and there's no traffic.
I didn't think it was that long.
There's no crossing. So if you start on the other side of the road,
there's no crossing here,
and
right?
it goes all the way down. And then also, because we live, I'm so happy, and I'm going off a little bit of a tangent here, but I just moved over here, and
I've seen you walking your dog.
My office overlooks Rotary Park. Like literally, when I'm looking at my computer screen, now I've got a taller chair so that I can look over my computer screen and literally see Rotary Park from my desk, which is I love it.
It's a beautiful view from up there.
It's
on
unbelievable.
Church Street, yeah.
And there's another thing about it too that's great is that we can walk the dog to the dog park and back. And that's about a 5K too. And the dog loves it. We love it. I'm talking to my fiance about getting one of those little carts on the one of those little trailers and throw the dog in it and zip it up and we take the dog to the dog
so
park
on
and
your
back
bike?
of the bike.
Yeah.
And then let him run around and then we take the bikes back to the house.
You just get a little basket like Dorothy. I mean, Toto was the original,
So I'm getting a little off the track here, but we got to get back to a couple other things that you've done. So not only the Putnam Business Association and the Putnam Arts Council. Can I say one more thing about the Putnam Arts Council?
Sure.
Are there any plans down the road for murals, like large murals? Wouldn't that be awesome?
Well, we did do the mural on the stairs that goes up to Putnam Bank.
I love it.
We did do that. As a matter of fact, we have a plaque that is ready to be installed. I've been literally waiting for. First, I was waiting for nice weather, and then I've been waiting for it to stop raining. But that will be installed very soon, and that's a plaque, with the name and the artist and all that'll go on it. We have talked about doing murals. There's an artist that I'm interested in doing some work with. I don't want to give anything away yet, but and of course it all depends on whether the other arts council members want to do something like that. Getting someone to do the mural is not the hard part. Finding funding for it is not necessarily the hard part. Finding a wall is the hard part because it has to usually be, it's probably going to be privately owned. So we have to find a wall that somebody would be willing to let us paint a mural that is permanent or as permanent as can be,
I think it just adds so much.
I do too. I absolutely. I mean, whenever I go somewhere and I travel, and if I see a mural somewhere,
Stops you in your tracks.
I'm always looking at other communities, what they do for art.
Yes.
I've always been interested in art.
I knew you did that. You could tell because, look at River Fire. Basically, you guys had a huge role
absolutely.
In bringing water fire.
We had gone to Providence for water fire, and we loved it. And we actually, Gary and I called Willie Busquet, Putnam Parks and Recreation Director, and said, hey, we got a great idea, and we can do it. It'll be different because we're, if you go in Providence, it's all hardscape and big, tall buildings, whereas you come to Putnam and you're on the grass, and instead of being a canal, it's the river, and instead of looking up and seeing skyscrapers, you see the open sky and trees. So it's different, but we certainly, and they took it from somebody else. They didn't invent it. So, we kind of took it to Willie, and it took us a while to get that approved, believe it or not, and to get that rocking and rolling. But when we finally did it,
it's awesome.
I can't imagine us not having river fires.
I love it. I tell everybody about it.
I do all the music for the river fire, and I mean, it's a lot of time that I put into it, but I absolutely thoroughly enjoy putting the music together. And I'm constantly watching something. I'll watch a movie, I'll watch something on TV, and I'm literally jotting down. I keep next to my chair,
music selections?
I'll say, I got to Google that.
You guys do good.
I got to Google that. Yeah.
The thing I like it when it's a little bit eerie, it's a little bit mysterious, a little bit spooky, a little bit seductive, maybe.
Exactly.
Makes it like a date night, but you're like, whoa, what's going to happen? It's
sometimes people ask me, they'll say, oh, how come you don't do a country western night? Or how come you don't do the, Jamaican music night or something? I'll be like, okay, the idea of river fire is supposed to be a very calming effect. It's not supposed to be jazzing people up. The whole idea is to get people to relax, bring down the heart rate a little bit, get the blood pressure down, and just relax. And that's how Gary and I look at it is it's date. It's almost like being date night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to set that romantic kind of mood.
And it does. And then everybody after the river fire goes to Putnam and has a drink at one of the bars.
There's plenty of places. You can even still get a late dinner at a lot of the places. Because many nights we've done a late dinner at.
Oh yeah, and thank you guys for all you do with the music, and everything's perfect.
We love doing it.
And
thank you.
And I hope everybody and I know a lot of people that do see it, but there's probably a lot of other people out there that don't realize all the things you do, which is one of the reasons I love to do this podcast, because it kind of gets that information out to people a little bit. You get to hear the backstory that you don't normally get to hear, because I love watching Gary do his morning thing with Facebook Live. When I'm sitting at my computer looking over the Rotary Park,
right.
I get a little notification that says WINY Facebook Live notification, Putnam Business Association's on, and I click right on it, and there it is, and he's like, hey gang, does my tile look good?
I know.
And then we have Earl Rosebrooks, or whoever we have for the thing, and so I love watching that stuff. It's nice to see it. It's been a great addition
to our business. Something that we've been able to.
I love it. It's
Gary's
huge.
Embraced it, and it's something that we've been able to embrace here, and it's been fabulous.
But you don't get to hear what I like about doing this is that you don't. This is the stuff that you don't really have time to talk about normally, because you usually just bam, bam, bam. Got to get the word out. Got to get the next people on. 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But this way we can take one person and take an hour. I've taken an hour and a half with one person before, which is, you would think, is way more than you would need. But if you're interested in it, you can listen to the whole thing and you get the whole story. Like Rena Mason from Tunk City Revival, or Rick Dwanzik at Antiques Marketplace. They're both extremely passionate and excited and ambitious, and they just talk. And I thought I talked a lot. You get in front of these guys and it's like, whoa.
I remember, I've known Rick back to his pharmacy days.
Yeah.
When he was his
podcast was really great.
He's had an interesting career.
Definitely. Yeah, he's an interesting character, really great guy, positive influence.
One of the other things you asked about what are you doing and all this stuff, and one of the things I'm most proud of right now is I'm also the president of IHSP, which is Interfaith Human Services of Putnam. Mm-hmm. It's a 501c3 that all 100% volunteer, no paid staff, mm-hmm. and we're the ones that oversee the Daily Bread Food Pantry, the New to You Clothing Closet, the Diaper Bank of Northeastern Connecticut, and a bunch of other programs. And that's one of the things I'm the most proud of right now, is because it takes up a lot of my time, but I freely and happily give that time.
Can you repeat, what is it called? The
Interfaith Human Services of Putnam. A lot of people know us as the Daily Bread Food Pantry,
okay,
which is how we started. But then we became a 501c3 because we kept adding on more and more programs.
Mm-hmm. And what is Interfaith Human Services? What does that mean?
Well, it's basically human services that in a lot of communities, those services are provided by agencies. Mm-hmm. In Putnam, they're provided by a 100% volunteer staff and a 501c3 charity. So there's the food pantry.
So interfaith, though, does that mean there are multiple churches?
No. Well, it started as the Interfaith Council of Putnam. Way back in the day, all the churches started a council. Everyone had a seat at the table, all the whole faith community, mm-hmm. and they basically said, what issues is the community facing, and how can we help? And out of that, one of the big things that came out of it was the Daily Bread Food Pantry. And so originally that is how Daily Bread started. And then Daily Bread was growing. Unfortunately, it was growing.
Can you give us a little overview about, for the people that don't know, including me, mm-hmm. unfortunately, what is Daily Bread? I don't even know.
Daily Bread is a food pantry that's located right here in Putnam. Mm-hmm. We're open 3 times a week. And between all of our programs, we serve about 300 families a month. And like I said, it's not just the food pantry. There's a clothing closet that anybody can come to. It doesn't matter your residence. We also have a diaper bank that serves all of Northeastern Connecticut. We do distribution from Thompson to Canterbury, from Putnam over to Ashford, Chaplin, Hampton. So basically all Northeastern Connecticut. And so we're servicing that. We also have emergency fuel, emergency rental assistance.
When are you going to be president of Interfaith next, or is that?
No, that is what I'm president.
You're already
I am president of right now. Yes, I'm in my 3rd term, and I've made a commitment for a long-term commitment as long as they'll have me.
How did I guess?
I'm on. I told them I'd be there for them. I have been very fortunate. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth, but I certainly wasn't worried about where my next meal was coming from. Mm-hmm. And my parents were always very generous people. And so, I've been fortunate. And there's always somebody that's less fortunate than you.
Oh, yeah.
So when you think you're having a bad day, there's always somebody that's having a worse day than you are. So that's why this group is so important to me, because, I think we should all kind of try to help and take care of each other and lift each other up.
Definitely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So let's go on to the building. Is it the building?
The building committee, yeah. Committee. So I'm the chairperson of that also. I have a fabulous committee. I'm thrilled to be serving on this committee. I'm not exactly sure at first why I was asked to be on it, because I don't really know much about building. But
you are... you're a real hub. You and Gary both are, everybody everywhere. So it's kind of good to have somebody that sees everybody all the time. I think,
Well,
that makes sense.
I was asked to do it, and then I was voted in as chairperson, and mm-hmm. I think that they were looking for somebody that would be able to look at this project very objectively and be fair to all concerned.
Makes sense.
And that somebody that the community would feel comfortable coming to and saying, gee, we have an idea, or what about this, or asking questions. Mm-hmm. Because there are people on the committee that have way more, building experience than I do. But it's exciting. I think it's going to be really important for this community that when that building gets finished, or even when they put a shovel in the ground, it's just going to be a very exciting day. It's been a long time coming. We all know our town hall is not the best facilities. Our library, I'm a big reader, and I love my local library. Mm-hmm. I'm not one to buy books. I do not have a Kindle. I gave mine away. because I didn't care for it. I like the feel of a book. I like the smell of it. I like everything about books. So I go to the library a lot, and our library is grossly undersized, and we just need it, and it needs updating and all that stuff. So, and then of course the Aspenok Historical. I love history, and their building is, if you've ever been in that building, it's so tiny for what the space they need.
Yeah.
And it's old, and it's 2 floors. It's not accessible. It's not handicapped accessible It's not handicapped accessible, I think, for even somebody that doesn't need handicapped accessibility. Yeah. It's horrible. And so it's really nice that all these people are going to get a new home.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a great location. It's a gateway into the community. People coming from that side of town, obviously, it's one of the first things they'll see. And I'm very excited about serving on this committee.
Yeah, it looks great.
Someone had to do it, and I was like, why not me? They asked, I said, why not?
Well, why not? You're doing everything else. So what's another thing? So just do everything. So what else? You got the building committee, and then you got the Rotary Park. We already talked about that. Yeah. That's part of the Putnam Arts Council, correct?
No, Rotary Park. Well, actually, Rotary Park is multifaceted. Rotary Park is Rotary, which is the Rotary Club.
Right.
So after the flood of 1955, Rotary clubs from all around the world donated money to Putnam, Connecticut.
Oh, wow.
To the Putnam Rotary Club, to help with the rebuild after the hurricane of 55. And that's when they decided to create the park and name it after Rotary Park. There's a big stone up by the flagpoles that will give you the history. And so the park bears our name. And so the club feels that there's we have an obligation, because it does bear a name, to keep it in nice shape. And so we work with the town to make that happen. So
it's a great park.
It's a beautiful park. And again,
Very
we're so
pretty.
lucky that it's if you work downtown, it's so accessible. You can go down in your lunch hour, you can walk, you can picnic. It's a great asset for us. And so we have a group called the Rotary Gardeners in the Park. And we, on a regular basis, go down and we help and do extra stuff. We weed, we mulch, we plant flowers. We just recently put in a garden we did the irrigation. That was one thing. We never had irrigation in the park. And it's a very hot, dry park. And so, come July, which is prime time for like the al fresco and for the river fires and for 4th of July fireworks, the grass looks like shredded wheat. We used to look like shredded wheat because it's just dry and there's no irrigation. And so a couple years ago, the Rotary Club decided to fund that, and we got the irrigation. And that's why the park looks so nice now, because there's irrigation in the park.
Oh, okay.
So that was one of the things last year we just redid the decking of the bandstand, because it was done, the extension was in like a plywood and pressure treated.
Yep.
We went to that composite like Trex decking. So the Rotary Club helped to fund that, working again with the Parks and Recreation Department. And then some of the gardens in the park are Rotary inspired, because one is, there's a plaque a lot of people didn't even know it was there. There's a stone plaque for Dr. Dino, who used to be an eye doctor in town, and he was mine when I was a little kid, and he was also a Rotarian. So there's a plaque in his honor there, and so we decided to build one of the gardens around his plaque to highlight it, so people would actually notice it, because we kind of said, oh, people don't even realize it's here. They were just, and the river trail goes right by it, but people weren't even noticing it. So we decided to do something to highlight it. And then of course, the sculpture is the Arts Council. But because I'm on both, kind of, link the two together.
An opportunity to make both better.
Absolutely. Yeah, right. So I'm always like, getting a volunteer from this group to help. And I'll say, okay, so technically you're Rotarian and you're helping with the Arts Council, but that's all right. It's all this,
Everybody wins.
Everybody benefits.
Yeah, whenever you're part of multiple groups and you find a way that everybody wins, just go for it. Yeah. So let's see, what else so we talked about what you've done with the WINY, and you grew up in Killingly. I grew up in Killingly too, but then I moved to Brooklyn, and then I went to Woodstock, and then I moved to Putnam, and then I just love Putnam. It's my favorite. I hate to say it, it's my favorite town.
I do love Putnam. I've lived here since Gary and I got married
guilty,
in '87.
Yeah.
What I love about Putnam is its resiliency. Mm-hmm. So, I grew up in Putnam when it was your very traditional downtown. So there were, shoe stores and dress stores and, Bugbees on the corner and all that stuff. So that's, as a kid, that's the Putnam I remember, coming to town. It's very vibrant, traditional downtown. And then, that kind of started changing, and you had a lot of empty storefronts. And then the antiquers came in. Mm-hmm. And whether you liked antiques or not, it was wonderful because it was better than empty storefronts, and they were filling it up. At one time, I think there was something like 24 antique stores in this town.
Yeah.
And then the internet kind of started, and then we know what happened there, and it started, having an effect on the antique stores. And so now I think we're down to just the 2 antique stores that Mr. Dwanzik owns, both of them now. And... But then, we started doing the eateries and the coffee houses and the galleries and now little shops and boutiques are popping up around that. So we've reinvented ourselves once again. And that's one of the things I just love about this town. And we're plucky.
And what's funny, too, is when I first got involved with the Putnam Merchants Association, Sherry Solskjaer from Arts and Framing introduced me to the group, and it was Norm McNeil was in economic development. We used to meet above Shaw's, I think it was, back then.
Possible, yeah.
And then we decided to move it over to the new location for Victoria Station Cafe on the corner. And that's when Ron became the president, and they changed it from Putnam Merchants to Putnam Business Association. And it seemed like, at that point, a lot of things changed. A lot of improvements happened. Beautification became more visible. Right. Everywhere you looked, there were things happening. And
I think that's important that as business people, we can't just be narrow-minded and have a narrow vision of this is my job and this is all I'm doing. If the downtown looks nice, then everybody's going to benefit from that because I know myself, my husband and I, if we say, let's go somewhere for a weekend, I want to go somewhere that the downtown is pretty and there's attractive flowers and it's welcoming. Clean and it's welcoming and, there's little this and that and shops and stuff. That's what I want. But I can't tell you how many times we'll go somewhere and I'll say, doesn't this kind of just remind you of home? And we actually travel less because now we have found that as our lives have gotten busier and we don't have time to go away on the weekend so much, we find that we look at our local area now, not just Putnam, but, Pomfret, Woodstock, and all the surrounding areas. We look at it more we try to look at it through a tourist's eyes. Mm-hmm. So how does a tourist see our downtown? Yeah. And we actually will go out on a Sunday and do what a tourist would say, well, what would a tourist do if they came here today on a Sunday? And we'll go out and do those things. Yeah. And so it's just a whole nother way to enjoy the place that we live and be part of the community. And, it's just been a pleasure to live here. Gary and I have been married now May 31st. It'll be 32 years. And I've lived in Putnam now for 32 years. And it's been a pleasure to do that.
I have to say, I want to go back on what I just said about Putnam's my favorite town. I also do love a lot of the other northeastern Connecticut towns. I have a soft spot in my heart for Killingly also,
well, of course,
and Brooklyn, because we history there too. But there's and I feel like we're making some progress in Killingly with the Killingly Business Association this year. A lot of good new things. Killingly Second Saturdays is coming.
That's right.
Following
I think
in
I
the
just
footsteps.
saw an email today about it coming up. Yep.
So that was me.
Okay. Well, thank you for doing that.
We're following in the footsteps. Putnam's got First Fridays. Norwich has First Fridays, which I was surprised to learn.
Norwich? Oh, yes, they do have First Fridays, and then there's Thursdays in Willimantic.
Thursdays.
Yes.
So nobody was doing...
And they all have a little bit of a different vibe.
Totally different.
Because I've been to all of them.
I haven't been to Norwich or Willimantic, but from what I've heard, they do seem to be quite different. But Killingly, we needed something, so why not? Second Saturday is a perfect fit. Go to Putnam First Fridays, go to Killingly Second Saturdays. Now
figure out what you're going to do on the third and fourth week, and you're all set.
Sundays, I think everybody's kind of resting a little bit, but Thursdays could work for Willimantic.
Thursdays, yeah.
That could be fun. But, it's going to be in Davis Park and Killingly. The first one's going to be July 13th from noon to 4. And we have live music, and then we have kids games like ring toss and we have cornhole, and we have sack races.
Oh, the old sack race.
And a bouncy house, and face painting and clowns and vendors, food trucks, stuff like that. All kinds of fun stuff going on. It's going to be kind of similar. The way I like to look at it is, my goal anyway, is to make it kind of like similar to Springfest without the parade. So it's just in Davis Park. My original goal was to make it in downtown Danielson, but you can't shut the road down in Danielson.
No, you can't.
And a lot of the businesses, I feel like, are maybe not warm to the idea yet. So we're going to try to start it in Davis Park, and then maybe we can eventually incorporate it into the downtown area with like doing some sort of a block party between the Elks and the courthouse, and where Danielson Adventure Sports, now Black Pond Brews, is over there. But anyway, yes, I'm getting a little bit off.
Baby steps, and things
we'll get
always
there,
grow.
And beautification.
That's right.
Lots of beautification is needed, and we're making a lot of progress in
Well,
that.
Danielson's, look, I was absolutely envious of when they did their sidewalks over, because they're just really beautiful and they look really nice. And it's amazing what a difference that made.
We're making a lot of progress.
That stretch of downtown with the new sidewalks, that makes a big difference.
I think
those are the amenities that people expect when they visit a town.
Well, what the great job that Putnam's done, the community, the participation, the amount of business owners, building owners, individuals that show up at the PBA meetings every month, the people that care, that are enthusiastic, that are contributing to the organization and to the community in general. That's what we need in Killingly, and we're making some progress. We're getting some new members, but we still have a long way to go. Putnam's already up here. This is how I always describe it. Putnam's already up here with that participation, that passion. But Killingly, we haven't gotten there yet. But there's a lot of room for improvement. So the great thing is, if we put a lot of effort into it, we can get a lot of people that make it contagious, and everybody starts caring more. And then the next thing you know, we're making like leaps and bounds.
Well, hopefully. For somebody who's been doing this for pretty much 40 years, that's all cyclical. And don't get discouraged by that, because I can remember when Killingly was up here, and
Me too.
Putnam,
when I was growing up.
we were struggling to get a business organization going in Putnam, and so things flip, and it's cyclical. So I wouldn't be discouraged by that. You're kind of just every once in a while too. It's a good thing. You kind of reinvent things, and that's not bad. Change is not bad. Change is usually pretty good.
I agree with that, but I also do feel that more people. People like you and me and Gary and other people from around northeastern Connecticut and that were participating in these types of organizations, they realize the importance of making a difference and improving the place that we live, like you were talking about. If you want it to be better, you have to take it upon yourself. Roll up
your sleeves and
to make it better.
Get dirty.
And a lot of the people that are out there that are constantly complaining about everything all the time, instead of complaining about everything, make a difference. We
always say on the talk show is that be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Yes. I recorded a podcast with Kyle from the Last Green Valley last week, I swear to God. And I said, and it came out of me, and I said, be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. I said, just like they say on the radio, on WINY.
And I'm a firm believer that everybody has something to contribute. No matter how small or how big, everybody has something, a special talent, and something that they can contribute.
You're right. You don't have to be the president of the organization.
No, you don't.
Just
Absolutely not.
And make your voice heard and try to help in any way that you can. Get the word out to other people. Let people know that you care. Let other people know how important it is to participate and show that, because when you bring all this, basically you're bringing love into the community. You're making it beautiful.
Well,
you're making it happier.
One of the best things that I would say over the past 40 years of belonging to a lot of organizations and working on a lot of committees is I've met so many fabulous people that I might not have ever met because our paths might not have crossed. Mm-hmm. But because we, both decided to sign up to
very true
work on the beautification committee, or we both decided to sign up to be on a building committee or to be on work at the food pantry. I've just met so many wonderful people, and I have all these great relationships.
That's the other great thing
that has enriched my life since as far back as I can remember.
100% true. One of my best friends, Ray De La Cruz, he's heavily involved in Killingly Second Saturdays. He's from Eastern Connecticut Savings Bank. I met him at a Putnam Business Association meeting, found out that he lived in Killingly. We started having a conversation about real estate, commercial real estate, and the next thing you know, we're working together almost on a daily basis, probably communicating more than a few times a day. He comes over sometimes. We'll work on stuff together. We'll get stuff done. And without him, Killingly Second Saturdays definitely would not have happened.
Okay, and so that might not have happened if you didn't have that initial, just that initial connection,
Yeah.
So I don't believe in like things that are random. I believe that usually everything there's a purpose. It just depends whether or not you decide to embrace that purpose or not embrace that purpose. Mm-hmm. But I don't believe in that things are really random like that, Or there's not significance to it. There might have been random but I don't think it was random. There was a reason why the two of you were put together at that time, and you chose to embrace it, and you chose to use it, and thank goodness you're using it for something better.
Positive, yeah.
Yeah,
making
positive change. It's true.
So we talked about what you've done, how you got here, and a little bit about
kind
your
of what
history.
I'm doing.
What you're doing, what you've
and
done.
And now you want to know my future plans.
And now,
oh, God.
What do you have coming down the road?
People always ask, do you have a bucket list? Well, I don't want to climb Mount Everest. The line is way too long, and I've never been looking at the news, but the line's way too long to get up Mount Everest. And I don't like lines. But, I don't have to go to, like, any... I don't have this bucket list to jump out of a plane or go travel Europe or I don't have that kind of bucket list. My bucket list is things that I want to accomplish, and it's mostly all local stuff. So, it's like I look ahead to the food pantry and into IHSP. So I look at it and say, like, well, what's the future bringing? Where are we going to be in the next 5 years? What are the needs of the community going to be? Mm-hmm. That's my bucket list. Or my bucket list is, I would really love to see 25, 30, 35 sculptures all along, walkable in the river trail, the downtown on Providence Street. I would love to see that, so that we would be a destination for art people who would like to come and see that. So those are the kind of things that are on my bucket list.
I love that idea. I love art. Art adds a lot to a town, a city, community. We just went to New York City, and there's just like endless amounts of things. As you know,
everywhere you look,
everywhere you go,
God,
there's a tourist destination somewhere. We took a picture of they call it the Friends fountain. I don't think it's actually the Friends from the TV show Friends, but like where they do the intro.
Yes.
I don't think it's the actual fountain, because I actually compared it to the real intro for Friends, and it doesn't quite look like it.
Okay.
But they had us like jump, and we recorded it in slow motion, and we were just, Megan and I, my fiance, we're both in midair, and we're like, and we paused. It was a slow motion video. The guy that was bringing us around on the bike was great with the camera, and he just used her phone and put it in slow motion video, and we were able to just do a screen capture from the perfect.
Oh, that's so fun!
And it came out. It's my cover photo. It's her cover photo right now. We just had so much fun. But there's so many locations in New York City that are just like, it's like when you go to Rome or Washington D.C. or something like that. There's a Trevi Fountain, and there's a Coliseum. There's all these destinations that you have to go to. I've noticed a theme in Putnam, and it's with Fire and Ice. You have all these sculptures, just like with the calves. You had all these calves, and everybody would go around and try to either take a picture with the calf, or they'd have a favorite calf, or with the ice sculptures, you can go around and you kind of notice all the business logos, or you notice like, look at this one, it's really cool. This is like my favorite one. And you try to find your favorite one, and I see a theme, the fairy gardens, another one. You go around and you're seeing all these different things. The fairy gardens are still everywhere.
They are. We did one. We have one in our window. We did a fairy garden, and I said, we'll leave it up until it falls apart, because it's just fun,
I was in Someplace Special restaurant the other day, and they had like 30 of them, and I was like,
oh,
I didn't even see these.
I'll have
in
to go
here.
in and see those.
Yeah.
I've not been in there in a while.
So the fairy gardens really took off. That was a big day. I did a drone video over everything. I got put together a great drone video for that. I got a drone video of the Memorial Day Parade the other day from off of my deck. I just launched the drone right from the deck, and there I am all over downtown Putnam. I can go to the highway and back. It's crazy.
It was a gorgeous day for it. It was an absolutely beautiful day for the parade.
So, down the road, any big things that you can think other than the sculptures, or that pretty much covers it?
Obviously the building committee. I mean, I'm going to see that through. God willing, I will see that project through. That is that's a biggie.
So it's going to be the library, the historical society.
It'll be the library, the historical society, the town hall, and a community center. So there'll be a community room.
What's the community center? Any idea?
Well, it'll be a room where the community. Let's say you're the Putnam Arts Council and you need a place to meet or something. We'd be able to use the community room. Or let's say you're a Boy Scout troop that needs a place to have meetings. So it'll be a community room.
It's another great thing about Putnam.
Or seniors. There's also going to be, the seniors will have a place also to go.
I was trying to find a
senior
place
center.
in Killingley. I was trying to find a place to have a meeting, or like the Killingley Business Association meeting, and there really wasn't a place for us to go. We were at the community center, the old junior high school on Broad Street, and then we were like, well, where can we go downtown somewhere? And there isn't anywhere that you can go that's big enough.
It's hard sometimes to find a community room.
But it's crazy in Putnam. You get your pick of the crossings. You can we started at Victoria
The
Station
restaurants
Cafe.
have been so generous to a lot of groups to let people come in and have meetings there, which I'm sure it's somewhat disruptive for them. But they've just been really wonderful about letting us have almost every First Friday meeting started at Victoria Station Cafe, and then I think we moved to the courthouse because we need a little more space, and now I think they're at Jessica Tuesdays, but they've been moving around, but the restaurants have just been very generous to us to let us do that. I think the YMCA might have a room sometimes too that you can use. You might want to look into that.
We're using the Killingley Public Library right now, which is great.
Oh, that's right.
I think it's a great improvement because the old one, the balcony was over our heads. We couldn't hear anybody talking, and it was kind of like you feel like you got this thing looming over your brain. Did
you ever go to the junior high school? Was that your school? Yeah, it was mine too.
Me too. 7th grade. 7th
and 8th.
I went to 8th in Brooklyn, and then I went to 9th in Brooklyn, and I went to Woodstock after that. So I went into high school as a sophomore. I missed the whole freshman. When it was a freshman year, I was actually like the top of my junior high, which is awesome. And I was president of my class, which is great.
Awesome. That's wonderful.
I didn't do too much back then when it came to being president, but it was still fun. So anyway, so we've done what you've done, what you're looking forward to, and we covered a lot of ground. But I would like to also tell you that down the road, I would love to have both you and Gary back on the podcast again. Once everything gets done, we've made a lot of progress. I tell people, come back in 3 months, come back in 6 months, come back in a year, come back in 2 years.
We would love to come together. Just remember, we've been married for 32 years. There might be a little fighting going on.
Well, you guys are such a huge have such a huge impact on our community, and I want to thank you so much for everything that you've ever done, because the list is endless, and I'm sure it's just going to continue because you're too you're too involved to stop. It's too much a part of your life, and you've done too much as it is, and you're going to continue to do too much down the road. So.
It is a part of our life, and we love doing it, and people say you're going to learn how to say no, and I can say no. Sometimes I have to, but I really think long and hard about it before I say no.
Well, I think after you've done it as much as you have, you know how much to commit to.
I know how much my plate can hold.
Right. Me too. I've learned that I can only take on so much, and I try not to take on more than I know I can handle, because I have done it, and I've learned my lesson.
Yeah, because when I do something, I like to give 100%, and I don't like to do, a half-baked job, and so that can happen if you bite off more than you can chew.
Yeah.
And I don't like to do that. So I try to be very careful and make sure that if I'm going to commit myself to something, that I can do it and not have to be committed. You know what I mean?
Right. One of the things I wanted to talk about before we go, there's a commercial real estate meetup that's going to happen on, I believe it's June 3rd. My phone is actually dead right now. It's not past 7 o'clock yet, is it?
It is 5 after.
Okay, I do have to get going. But there's a commercial real estate meetup that's happening on, I believe it's June 3rd at Ellis Tech at 8:30 a.m. Yes, that's
okay.
So that's put on by Bill Chang, who's another commercial realtor in the area. He does a fantastic job organizing that group of people. I don't know how he got that many people to show up, because I wasn't having that much luck when I was trying to organize a residential real estate. But then I came up with the idea of do it at a big, nice, beautiful house and have a wine tasting, and it was like took off.
Absolutely.
But we've been kind of, I've been too busy recently to follow up with that. But anyway, so we have that coming up. Other big things, parking in Putnam. There's a lot of planning going on with the improving the parking situation in Putnam. I was talking to the mayor about that earlier today. Yep,
I'm on that committee too.
Oh, good. That's an interesting one.
It's very interesting, and it's people don't realize how important parking is. And I think for a lot of people think there's not enough parking in Putnam. That's kind of a perception, not necessarily truth.
Yep, mostly.
It's just that people perceive it that way because everybody wants to park right in front of the building that they want to go to, and that's not feasible.
Right.
And people go to places all the time and visit, and they think nothing of parking their car and walking all over the place. And so we really do have enough parking. It just might not be smack dab in front of the building that you want to go to, but there is plenty of parking, and it's free parking.
Which wouldn't be the case if it was a parking garage.
Right. So, like, for instance, we, Gary and I, a place we like to go to is Northampton, Mass. Great little town.
Love Northampton.
Lovely little town. Very artsy. Very academic because of course the college is right there. But there's not a free parking unless you're staying at the Hotel Northampton. There's not a free parking space in that town. You better swipe your card now because there's a lot of walking. But you have got to pay for every single space in that town. So we take that for granted here. But visitors come here and they're like, oh, parking is free. That's fabulous. But we take it for granted.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's definitely a perception problem. I am curious to see what's going to happen when we get 82 units across the street here. If they're going to...
They have more than enough parking behind there for that.
But I live closer than they do, and I still drive to downtown, personally. I'm just thinking...
Well, I think that people, though, that are going to gravitate towards that kind of living are going to want a walk. They're looking for a walkable community. I really do believe that.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to be the issue we think it is. Because they have plenty of parking behind there and they will have access. It's not like they're going to have to walk out the back and come all the way around. They will have easy access to the bridge here.
Well, normally for me, this is how I like to look at it. When I go to downtown Putnam and I'm trying to find a place to park, it might take me 3 minutes to find a place to park. A lot of people are used to just pulling in right in front of where they want to go and they get out of their car. And if they can't do that, they're not happy. I'll drive around the block, whatever block I'm looking to park on, I'll drive around a couple times. If I can't make it the first time, maybe I'll get the second time. If I can't get it the second time, I'll try another block. I know how to park in the city.
Yeah, that's what Gary. We do the same thing. Gary will say, "You just want to park here. You want to make the loop," and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, make the loop." And plus, it gives us the idea to figure out what's busy and what's happening downtown to get the little vibe going.
You might see a friend.
And somewhere. Sometimes we'll be driving, and this is our little thing we always say. So we'll be going. If you get all of a sudden you go, "Ooh, good spot," we always say, "Live right, park right." That's our little joke.
I have my logo like you guys do on the side of my vehicle, so I always say it's great advertising. Like, look, if you see a good advertising, like when I go out with my fiance, I'll say, if you see a good advertising spot, let me know, and then I'll...
Well, for instance, Gary and I live down in Grove Street, and there have been nights that we've walked to downtown to have dinner, and then walked home, and that's certainly a lot farther than this complex is going to be to downtown.
Yeah, we walk.
Yeah,
we do a 5K on a regular basis.
We don't,
not running, but walking the dog.
And I really think that anyone that's interested in that kind of a living situation is going to be looking for a walkable community, and
definitely,
you're going to have it here.
It's a huge draw for sure. Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's. I
know you're late for your next appointment already. I'm sorry about that.
So I just want to do an overview. It's Karen Osbrey, WINY Radio. And for more information, if you want to reach Karen, how can people reach you? Phone number, email address?
Phone number here at WINY is 860-928-1350. My email is kareno@winyradio.com. Of course, you can just go on the website, which is winyradio.com, and all my information is there.
And the closing thought, I always like to ask if you have a little bit of advice for somebody that's either just getting started in the business or a little bit of advice that you wish you could have given yourself when you first started.
Well, not so much advice that I would give myself, because you got to remember, Gary and I worked here for 20 years, and then we purchased the station. Okay. So my advice to people would be, before you, let's say, start a business, do your research. Just because you like to do something or you think that this would be a great business doesn't mean that the general public is going to think it's a great business. So do your research. Is it something that people need? Is it something that people want? And is it something that people are willing to spend their money on? So that would be my research and my advice to people. I see a lot of people that start businesses and sometimes they just... they have not done their research.
Is there a demand for the business?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah, that's a good point.
That's
good point.
Gary and I had 20 years of research, so kind of before we bought our business, so we were kind of on the fortunate side there.
All right, thank you so much, Karen O, for being on the podcast.
Tony. It was a pleasure seeing you again. It was very nice.
It's always fun.
Exuberant personality. I love it.
Thank you very much, and thanks so much for listening to the podcast, The Real Deal Business Podcast. My name is Anthony Chabot with Chabot & Associates Real Estate Group of EXP, and you can reach me at 508-847-0902 or anthonychabot@gmail.com. and I'd be happy to answer any real estate, whether it's questions, whether it's residential or commercial, Connecticut or Massachusetts, multifamily, retail, rentals, you name it, we do it. Drone videos, virtual tours, floor plans, professional photography, web design, and video production. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great day.